Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Loop, a podcast where we talk everything tech and beyond. I'm your host, Jay, and today we are talking about how audio is shaping up to be the future of social media. Joining us in this episode is former lab reviewer Dhruv Nagpal.
Hey everyone, glad to be here.
From the accessory testers, we have Razor228.
Hello, everyone.
And the community's favorite moderator, CM Mohan.
Thank you, Yash, for your introduction. I hope everyone is well.
All right. So today, as I told you, we're talking about the rise of social media. But it would be remiss of me to jump right into the present situation without discussing the background. So I want to ask all of you, what was your first interaction with social media? So we'll go with CM Mohan first.
Yeah, I think the first interaction with social media was with the Yahoo Messenger, which was more like a chat engine. But the main social media which we see today started with, I think, Orkut. I think not many people would know about that, but it was one of those famous social media at that point of time.
Great. I mean, I really hadn't heard about it until now, but yeah. So how did it work? Was it like similar to Facebook, for instance?
Yeah, it was. It was more like Facebook. I could say Facebook is like a redefined version of Orkut, and it had its own features like walls and sharing videos and images, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it was like, you can say it was how Facebook probably started its own design based on Orkut.
Very interesting. Moving on, Reza, what was your first interaction with social media?
My first interaction with social media would be MSN Messenger, okay, which is something I used to communicate with my cousins and few friends which were not nearby. Okay, there was no sort of communication with them. Okay, telephones were quite expensive, and internet was not that expensive for us because there was no kind of limit on usage at that time. So it was a much cheaper way for me to communicate with my cousins and friends which stayed in a distant place. Okay, STD rates were very high. So this is what I used to do to communicate with my friends.
You both of you and CMO strike me as like really old people, because I mean, not old, we should say like you're old sage or something of that sort, because the platforms that you talk about, I haven't even heard the names of. Moving on, we can approach Dhruv Nagpal. He's someone more or less my age, so probably his experience was similar to mine. Dhruv, what was your first interaction?
I'm a year younger than you are, and I still had an Orkut account. So so in the beginning, I think 2009, I made a Facebook account to play Farmville with my friends, and I think there were a lot of games on Facebook at that time, like Dragon City, Farmville, all those Zanga games.
Oh, that brings back memories, Cityville, Farmville, and
all of those games. And when I look back at them, I realize just how mindlessly repetitive they were. But I did that. Then after that, most of my communications on WhatsApp, and then everybody came on Instagram. So that's my social media story, I guess.
I'm so glad there's at least some person with whom I can relate. Similarly, Dhruv, even my experience with social media was first time that I ever got on the internet, and I was absolutely, amazed at the so many things. There's unlimited potential on the internet and what you can do. So initially, when I was underage and I was not eligible for joining Facebook, so I had to, just like all of us in the past, we had to use a fake date of birth just to get on the platform and experience what it was. So yeah, of course, as you said, I did not join Facebook to connect with other people. The only thing that I connected with on Facebook was I wanted to play these really nice games, and at a time when graphics actually more or less sucked. So Cityville and Farmville were like a very polished version of what we used to call a game in that day. So that really caught my attention. Of course, social media, as we know today, has changed a lot. So if I had to ask you, CA Mohan, coming back to you, social media is very different today when compared to what you experienced during its inception. So what would you say, what has changed, what remains the same, and the basic idea of social media, does it remain the same, or what is it, what do you find different?
Well, I think social media as a platform has grown tremendously since I started using social media. And I think in the current scenario of COVID-19 and more young generations, relying on social media for their interactions, I think media is now one of those things which you cannot avoid in your day-to-day life. And even for me personally, I was not much into social media, but of late, to get myself updated with various new things that is coming out, I also started using social media more. And with COVID-19 again, uh, we there was no other option but to start interacting with people more and more on social media. So I think there's a tremendous growth, is what I can see.
Very interesting, and I cannot agree more with your idea, because as I see, the pandemic has really changed the way we look at social media. And before, it was just yet another application that we had on our phone, but now that was the only way by which we could stay connected with our friends and family. So in a way, the pandemic has given a huge major boost to social media platforms, and in a way the pandemic has also influenced the idea of social media. So looking back, if the pandemic was a wall or a door, then there is the pre-COVID situation that we have, and the importance of social media we had then. And looking back now, the situation is very different. And it's not just social media per se, but the way we interact with technology has also changed a lot. So coming to the topic for today, how social media has changed over these years, basically, for the most part, and for as long as I remember, social media was a text-based communication service. So basically, you used to put together words and form fancy text, and you got to send it to someone, hoping that they would friend you on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat. And then later came a time when people used social media just to share their life, what's happening in their life, sharing pictures. But now the situation now is very different compared to before. Now we have this new era of audio, similar to what we are doing right now. We are talking as four people, but then we're not talking about 4 or 5 people talking. We're talking about the everybody on the internet suddenly is coming on a platform, and they're switching from text to audio to voice. So looking at it in a way, this is reinventing social media. So what are your views on that? What do you think, how social media is changing, and how audio is going to play a major role in how we tell our stories and how we inspire people? What do you think, Razor?
Yes, I think it's changing a lot, and it's kind of similar to what we had with Discord. And Discord was the start of it. With Discord, you had limited number of people that could join in. You need to be first a member of the channel to start communicating with someone in the room. But with Clubhouse, it's very different. Anyone can just drop in, chime, and they can start talking, or you can just join in and listen while there's a lot of people sharing their ideas, sharing their thoughts, conversing. So it can be a lot of different things that can be done. Clubhouse way is very unique in this kind of aspect. Yeah, but right now it's invite based, so it's good that it's been restricted to a certain point. It's not being blown out of proportion in terms of a very large number of people joining in. There's been a steady growth to it.
So, as you mentioned, we already had Discord, a voice-based platform for conversing on the internet. But then, looking at Discord, it was already there. But now, with Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, and all these other platforms coming up and growing in popularity, it seems as if there's something which is influencing this. So, Dhruv, what do you think? The post-pandemic era, what is the effect that it has had on social media, and why is audio important now more than ever?
So what I've seen personally is that the rise of tech-based networking or social media has been in three phases. When we had computers, proper desktops, we used to communicate in text. Then came phones with cameras on them, so we got Instagram, and then later on Snapchat. But the thing is, you can only text for so long. Ultimately, you'll either tie your fingers out, or otherwise you feel like the conversation isn't that meaningful on text. You can't have all the cues that you get from an audio based conversation or by talking to someone face to face over text. You can't do that. Text is more formal. So, even personally, I usually just throughout the pandemic, I've preferred video calls on WhatsApp or Instagram over texting somebody, because if I'm going to talk to somebody for an hour or hour and a half for anything, it's better to just be on a video call or just talk in text messages or what I mean voice messages, not text messages. Yeah, so I think Clubhouse is just an extension of that. It's if you focus just on audio and everybody's talking in audio, you can actually feel that it's a more intimate conversation simply because you can hear somebody and you can hear their emotions through their voice.
It's good actually you mentioned that, because you have two things at the either end of the spectrum. Either you have a text-based messages, which, as you actually point out, is lifeless, emotionless, and mere words. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have video calls, which are a lot more personal, have character. You can actually show who you are. You can talk to people, and you have emotions, you have expressions. But now audio kind of sits in the middle of this, so it is more private. You don't have to show your face, and and it is not as convenient as hiding behind a username and texting on a public platform or social media. So CA Mohan, what do you think, as this sits in the middle of the spectrum, what do you think? Because there's no choosing between voice-based message and audio call or video calls, but with audio we have a completely new dimension, another way to converse. How do you think this is the future of social media? Will it succeed, or are there any things that we have to take into consideration?
I think what Razor and Dhruv said is absolutely to the point. Social media actually made the world smaller, but I think with this audio media, I think the world has become more smaller, and all that boundaries of nations and high cost of having international calls, discussions, etc. is all removed. I think, I mean, anyone who has an valid invite can join any discussion which is happening online. I think this is one of the biggest advantage which I see with this, especially with the clubhouse thing. And I think that has opened up, I mean, the spectrum completely, and it has given a lot of users a medium to maybe kill their loneliness, as well as expand their knowledge about a specific topic, you may say.
So this is a very interesting point, CA Mohan, because as you are a moderator for global forums with approximately, we have already crossed 4 million users. So what do you think about audio as a medium to converse? Because it is not as convenient as picking up a random username and fighting keyboard warriors behind a username, because it's audio is more than that. There's more character, it's more intimate, it's more personal. What do you think about conversations on such a large scale? We are talking about millions of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we don't have to hide ourselves behind a username. But I think good that there is the horizon has opened up. But I think, from if I have to speak about moderation perspective, I think one of the biggest challenges moderating the voice rooms, if I may say, use that word, because as you may understand, writing on a laptop is more harder than speaking. I mean, speaking does not require much of an effort, but when you write, you still spend some time and then press enter. But in audio thing, you will just speak out whatever is in your mind, and I think that is something which is good as well as a bad thing. And I think a moderation of, I mean, balancing out that is very much important.
Yeah, of course. Moderation is, I know it's a nightmare to moderate voice channels. There are so many people talking, and it's easy to get bored listening to people. If somebody's talking something that does not interest you, it's easy to, lose track of what they're talking about. And it's very difficult to detect where the problem is. But you think text-based messages is more convenient, and it does not pose as many technical challenges as does audio, because you have these flags where if a certain user posts a keyword and it is automatically flagged, so it is auto moderated upon, he cannot use certain words. But with audio, everybody has a different accent, everybody has their own dialect, and they're speaking different languages, so the system can be abused very easily. Moderation is a nightmare as it is. With audio, the challenges increase multiple fold. What do you think? Is there a solution for moderation when we are considering audio?
No, absolutely. I think moderation as an activity, whether it is a text-based forum or it is an audio-based forum, I think it is always a learning. It always involves a learning curve because you are interacting with people from various cultures, various countries. So I think it is an overall ongoing evolving thing. And there's no one method to moderate a particular forum, be it a text-based or a voice-based. And I think voice based is more of a challenge as compared to text based. As you rightly said, you can add filtrations in a text based forum, but in a voice based forum, yes, I mean the argument can turn out in a heated way anytime. And I think that becomes important to for a moderator to identify where one has to keep a full stop and judge whether this is going in a right direction or a wrong direction.
Right. So since you have been a moderator for, let's say, how many, 4 or 5 years now, right?
Yeah, easily.
Right. So, do you see yourself as a moderator in an audio-based platform? And, hypothetically speaking, what are the things that you would do differently?
Okay, personally speaking, moderating a voice-based forum will be more challenging as compared to text-based forum. So, and you need to have a lot of time, first of all, to be present at the conversation for multiple hours is one thing I think which is a big challenge. And uh, s- I think from moderation perspective, I think training the moderators is something which is very important because there are people from different cultures. For me, for example, something is abusive, but for some other person it will be a normal direct at their country. So training between the moderators, training between the room creators and the moderators, that kind of an interaction, possibility, or you may say a judgment factor is important to identify which point one has to put a full stop. I think that is something which will a moderator can learn only by way of getting more and more experience. And I mean, being a open platform, it becomes even difficult for moderators to shut up the users. So I think there's a balancing act which is required between allowing people to speak as well as maintaining the decorum of the forum.
That's an excellent point. I completely agree. So, Dhruv, as a person, as a speaker, if I'm going to ask you as a person from the perspective of a person who's using audio-based platform, to converse or share ideas, what do you think? In what ways does this open new opportunities for you to tell the same story in a more effective way, to share ideas and inspire people? Do you think it is, an extension of text-based conversation, or?
No, honestly, I believe that audio is a completely different ball game because first of all, it makes you be more spontaneous, and there's a certain quality to that, and I'm pretty sure that's why Clubhouse is so successful because when you're talking to somebody, you can't just wait. Take those 30 seconds or a minute that takes you to reply to a conversation. You have to reply immediately, and because that's just how a conversation goes. So you have that you don't get to think or tailor your response, so it becomes the flow of the conversation becomes more natural. You don't have emoticons or anything because you don't need emoticons. You have your voice, you have intonations in your voice, you have pitch and all those qualities. You can communicate emotion through your voice, so it's a completely different ball game. And the thing is, it's just not going to be that scalable if everybody's going to talk. color, obviously. And like even on Clubhouse, when some celebrity like Elon Musk tries to come on a talk, then not everybody can talk in that room. It's basically a webinar, and some other people get to ask questions whenever they have to. In smaller conversations, of course, you can, and we see this with Discord and other communities as well. So this is going to be the biggest issue with audio. It's going to be a smaller network. We can think of it as it's basically going to be completely opposite to Twitter. Because on Twitter, you can just type something and everybody can read it all of a sudden. Then everybody can reply to it. And Twitter is just well suited for a lot of random people talking about their life and then getting replies on that because it's a blogging site. And that's because of text. But audio, I don't think it's going to be that scalable. It's going to be a bunch of small communities talking amongst themselves because nobody has the time to listen to the entirety of the audio, right? To hear what the person's communicating.
Good point. So, Razor, do you think, according to what Dhruv has said, do you think that audio-based social media is, in more ways than one, limiting? So, actually, you have, first of all, you have the whole world of emojis that we, take for granted and use so easily. We can cover up all our sarcasm just by, adding an appropriate emoji. So, do you think it is limiting and you cannot express completely or in a way you would have done using text when it comes to audio?
No, it won't be limiting because as Dhruv said, you can express various emotions while you're talking with someone. Okay, you can modulate your pitch. If there's excitement in your voice, you can convey that. By just sounding more exciting. Okay, by expressing, by just putting emphasis on a particular sentence, by emphasizing on a particular word. That can be expressive. Okay, emojis, yes, they are used to be express certain points. You can showcase your emotions, how you're currently feeling with just a emoji. But the
and you can fake them too.
Yes, but with once you're talking with someone, if you're depressed, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling happy, that is usually conveyed with your voice. Okay, how you feel is usually what comes out when you're talking with somebody. Again, it's very easy to take a hold of how you're feeling, if you're sad, if you're happy, just by hearing someone.
So maybe I can agree that it is not limiting per se, but I think we all can agree that it does not offer the same amount of exposure that text would give you. So it is very easy to just, launch Twitter and just go to the trending page and look at the trending tweets. But when it comes to audio, you have to hear the entire thing to get the gist of it, catch the essence. So maybe if not limiting, there is of course this concern that this won't give you the same amount of exposure. So even if you have an excellent idea, maybe you can reach less people, or if you have a story which can inspire millions, then the same won't be possible here. So where is that balance that we are looking for? Being, giving you the right amount of exposure, giving you the right amount of freedom to express. So how do you see that, CM Mohan?
Yeah, I think right, like you said, it requires someone to sit at a stretch and understand. Moreover, there is no such feature of recording the conversation, which is happening in Clubhouse, for example. So you get lost in the transit if you miss out the train. So yeah, I think that is something like which is a limiting factor there. And text being open to everyone is definitely has a upper hand. Moreover, currently, say for example, Clubhouse, that is only limited to iPhone users, and we all know that there are millions of Android users. So once the Android user starts coming onto this platform, I think that will be the testing time of how much server can handle, what kind of chaos can be expected. Moderation difficulties will again increase multiple times. So I think still the voice-based social media is new but challenging.
Right. So I think we can sum it up that voice-based medium is new, but at the same time, it is also challenging, the technical difficulties. And there are, while it is convenient and more easy in a way, it also creates problems that were previously not there at all. So you have a few more things to worry about in this medium. So to conclude, what do you think? If I have to ask you for a rough estimate, what do you think? Is the chances that this thing will succeed? Yeah, you go first, Dhruv.
I think that it's going to go one of two ways. Facebook's going to build a competitor from the ground up or integrate this into Instagram because they have the infrastructure for it. Clubhouse becomes something like Snapchat, a relatively smaller social network, but still a big name. Or else Facebook builds a competitor and forces Clubhouse out of the business. I'm thinking this is headed one of two ways.
Interesting take. Reza, what do you think?
I think it would, stay in side by side because for someone who prefers intimacy, who prefers, one-on-one conversation with someone, or just talking to someone instead of just texting with someone, to hear someone's voice, that would be a good option for Clubhouse to stay there because in this pandemic time where you are, not meeting with a lot of people, your interaction is also limited, and getting to talk to someone, okay, is hearing someone's voice in this time is a good way to converse, to
Right.
talk to someone. So I think this is something where we are headed, and this might coexist with our existing social media.
Right. So Razor says that it'll coexist, and Dhruv says that this can go one of the two ways. Either it, gets eaten up by the competition, or it eats the competition. So this is two very opposite viewpoints that we've seen. CM Mohan, what is your take?
Yeah, I think it will be somewhere in the middle where it will still coexist, but it might not really, be a revolutionary social media change per se, because of various reasons like technical challenges, moderations, and the easiness which text-based forum has currently. I think it will take some time to reach at a very good stage, but still I think audio based is for those niche user base that requires the feel of hearing people's voice and communicating to strangers. I think it will be somewhere in the middle where it will be there. I am sure it will be there, but it might not be a revolutionary, or it will not overtake the text based social media.
Right. Interesting. So, I'll just end with one last question, and any one of you can answer. If you were to get on one of these platforms today, what would be the story or topic that you would explore? I'm just saying, like, you're going to jump on one right now, and then what is the first thing that you do, assuming that you're a speaker? I'll go with you first, CA Mohan.
I would probably want to explore something relating to music.
Nice. And what about you, Dhruv?
Something that's the equivalent of wormhole.
That is something I'd be into. That sounds very interesting. What do you think, Reza?
Yes, I think I would go with Dhruv on this one because wormhole is a place, I think I get along with. I feel very welcome there. Okay, so it's very good place. So something kind of wormhole-ish would be very good.
So we're closing with a shout out to Wormhole. Like, that is the cherry on the top. That's great. So yeah, that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sia Mohan, for taking time out and joining us on this special episode. Thank you, Dhruv and Reza, for your time. This is YJ signing off from episode 4. We'll be back soon with episode number 5. And be sure to let us know what you think of voice-based social media as the future of conversations. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.